just rolled up to In the Mind of JT, where the whiskey's strong, the opinions are stronger, and there's no filter in sight. We're talking no holds barred, people. I am JT, Marine, biker, musician, and unapologetic patriot. I love my country and all things fast, loud, and wild. And if you came here looking for a smooth ride, well, you're in the wrong motherfucking place. Buckle up. Let's get it done. It's time to dive into the chaos that's inside my mind. So check this out, okay? The older I get, the smaller my circle gets. 20 years ago, that probably would have bothered me, because when you're young and full of vigor and energy, and you feel like you can take over the whole world, you think those things are important. Surrounding yourself with people, and a lot of them, seems to be like your mission, right? So that was kind of always my thing when I was younger. Today, as a 52-year-old man, well, I actually smile when I think about this, because I've realized something. The smaller my circle becomes, the bigger my life gets. Now, I know that probably doesn't make much sense right now, but by the end of this episode, I think it will, and I think you'll see where kind of I'm coming from. You see, this isn't really an episode about losing friends, okay? It's about gaining perspective. It's about realizing that the older you get, the less the outside noise matters, right? And you kind of stop chasing attention. You stop trying to impress people. You stop trying to fit into places that, quite frankly, you really never belonged in to begin with, right? So instead, you start building a life that actually feels good when no one's around and no one's watching, right? So why did my priorities change in life? Well, obviously I'm getting older, and I think way differently now than I did when I was, a youngster, or even, 10, 15 years ago. It happened little by little. And if I could describe it, it's maybe it happened through one disappointment at a time, one lesson at a time, one goodbye at a time, one success that didn't feel as satisfying as I thought it would, one quiet evening that meant more than the loud weekend ever could. These are the things that go through my mind when I think about this shit. Sometimes we don't notice that we're changing until one day we look back and we realize, fuck, we're not chasing the same things anymore. I used to think that the more people, the better a life, right? You surround yourself with all these people through a variety of things, right? When I was younger, I wanted the big circle because I was trying to be a rock star, and I wanted to, live that lifestyle. That was my main focus in life, being a motherfucking rock star. So, and I thought the bigger my circle was, the better. Bigger parties, bigger crowds, more attention. And, when you're trying to navigate your early years in life and you're trying to find your place. And in this case, when I was younger, it was trying to be the rock star. When you're trying to find these things, you're seeking all the wrong kind of attention, right? I thought I had a packed phone filled with numbers and names and people I knew, and I thought I was doing something right. Now, I'd rather have dinner with 3 people who are genuine and who care about me than spend an evening with 30 people I barely know. Does that make sense? You got to ask yourself, were these people really friends, right? And at the time, when I was going through this thing and learning the ropes and of life and going through the the hard knocks, you're not really thinking about these things. Or were they just part of the season of your life? Were they part of a chapter? Sometimes we mistake proximity for friendship. Just because someone is around you doesn't mean they're walking through life with you. Doesn't mean they're on the same path. Doesn't mean they have the same goals. And so I've always had this thing where I used to think that being busy meant I was successful. I've always had my hands in things. I've always wanted to upgrade and level up in all aspects of my life. And so I always thought, hey, well, you know what? If I just stay busy, then, I'm going to eventually attain a successful life. So I used to think my value came from always doing something, always chasing something, always proving something. Now I've learned that sometimes the best moments in life happen when nothing special is happening. Sitting on the patio, going for a ride on the bike with my woman, walking my dogs, cooking dinner. Like tonight I just cooked on the brand new Traeger that I got, and I get so much enjoyment out of cooking on that thing, man. It's just absolutely amazing. It's the little things in life that kind of make you refocus on what's important. So, I have this this one memory with my brother. And I don't know how old I was. I was probably in my 30s somewhere. And we were at his house. And we were watching the Saturday Night Live episode, dude. Just a random episode. And it was an episode with Will Ferrell. And he was he was in a band, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, where he was playing cowbell. And I tell you what, if you guys know what episode I'm talking about, my brother and I were laughing so fucking hard during that episode. I mean, dude, we were laughing so hard, we were crying. It was so fucking funny, right? And that was just such a random moment in our time. Even now, 20 plus years later, we'll like mention that in a conversation where we'll remember that and we'll just start laughing our asses off. So it's like those little memories like that I cherish and value, man. Like you can't put a price on that. There was nobody around. There was no we weren't in a bar. We were at his house on the couch doing family shit, just hanging out, two brothers. And that episode was so fucking hilarious that even to this day, we still laugh about it when it's ever brought up. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like those little things in life is really what kind of matters. And so what I seek these days when it comes to just, where I'm at in life is quite simply peace. And of course, that's got me thinking, and it's got me thinking down into other things and about what actually matters in life. So one thing I've realized as I've gotten older is that the outside noise starts to fade away. The politics, the drama, the work life, all the stuff on the outside world, just it fades away. It doesn't affect you anymore. Like I'm such a laid back, mellow guy, and I don't get uptight about shit. Like, my thought process is I always find a way. I always find a way to do something. If I need to pay my bills or finances or whatever, I always find a way. And I don't ever, trip on that stuff. So yeah, the outside noise will just fade away. And it's not because the world has changed, because the world is changing by the day. But it's because I've changed. The world is just as loud as it's always been. Social media, people are still arguing with each other. Politics are still crazy, getting out of hand. It's that us versus them mentality. It's like the money, the status, approval. None of that stopped. That's all still there. The difference is I stopped giving it permission to rent space in my head, right? Because none of that shit matters. That might be one of the greatest freedoms that comes with getting older. You just don't give a fuck anymore. Because you know that time is not on your side. Time is not on the human being's side. It just isn't. That's one thing that happens with everybody. We all get old. And when you start thinking in this manner, you you realize that chasing approval is fucking exhausting. It really fucking is. People are always doing it, not just in the personal life, but with work and their relationships. It gets so fucking old. It's like in that perpetual cycle of when someone's dating and they've been dating for years, like as far as, not being in a relationship, right? You've been single your whole life, dating, always meeting new people. It's like giving your fucking resume all the time. It's so fucking exhausting and old. And I mean that across the board with everything. There was a time where I actually cared what people thought about me, and man, I would just sit and let that shit eat away at me. But when you get into your 50s, that shit means nothing. And when you start thinking in that way, things change. I wanted people to understand me. I wanted people to agree with me and like me. And now, if someone doesn't like me, it's fucking, oh well. That's okay. Not everybody's going to understand what's going on in my mind. Hence, in the Mind of JT podcast, right? I mean, not everybody's going to be on the same motherfucking page. So, you got to come to terms with yourself at some point, and that always happens when you get older. The funny thing is, the less I stop caring, the more comfortable I became with myself. As you get older, we get into this habit of working, making money to be able to support yourself, pay the bills, and buy the things you want. It buys you freedom. Money lets you travel. Money puts gas in my beautiful, beautiful brandy wine, right? Money lets you enjoy things. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it doesn't matter. It does. But here's what I've learned when it comes to that. Money is a tool, okay? I spent years thinking success was measured by what I accumulated. Today, I don't think that. Like I said, money does matter, but I think success is measured by what I experience. Because let's be honest, one day I'm going to leave this world, and when that happens, my brandy wine's not coming with me. It stays here. My house isn't coming with me. It stays here. My bank account's not coming with me. It stays here. Everything that I've worked for in life, my whole life, stays behind. It's not depressing. It's not depressing to me. It's an inevitable thing of life. Because it forces me to ask, what actually goes with me? Not the possessions, not the titles, not the accomplishments. But it's the memories, the laughs, the experiences, the people I loved. That's what lasts. And, that kind of brings me to where I'm at with Amanda. We have our story on how we met. She was on the podcast. We spoke about it. And I got to say again, finding the right person, it really changes everything. It really does. For a long time, I thought accomplishments was what made life meaningful. And then Amanda came into my life and fucking rocked my world and changed that whole thought process. Because my definition of success changed when she came around. And I don't know what it is, but success now feels different. Don't get me wrong, I still love motorcycles. I still love working hard. I still enjoy building things, right? Like growing things from nothing. I still appreciate the nice things in life, even more so now when Amanda's around, because we have a tendency to both like the same things. And we like the finer things in life. So none of that's changed. What has changed was realizing those things mean so much more when you have the right person beside you. Does that make sense? It's not because they make you successful. It's because they make success worth sharing. And this might sound so Jerry Maguire-ish. Amanda didn't complete my life. She changed the way I experience it. So she didn't save me. I'd already been doing the work. You know, I'd already been making changes in my life. What she did do was make me feel the life I'd worked so hard for building was worth sharing. That to me is one of the greatest gifts life can give you. Someone who celebrates your wins. Someone who's there through the ups and downs. They walk beside you during the hard days. Laughs with you over absolutely nothing. And some of the stuff is the most dumbest of things. But they also remind you that the little moments usually become with big memories. And, here's something I'm going to share with y'all that I didn't share on the episode with her. See, there is an exact time. There is one specific moment that kind of brought my walls down with her. Because from the very first moment I met her, I was on guard 24/7. I was always kind of not sharing with her full details of my life. I was not necessarily, how can I say it? I wasn't giving her 100%. Because, when you're guarded, you kind of keep your cards close to your chest. So I can literally recall the exact time when I decided that I wasn't going to do that with her anymore. I was going to just fucking let it all out. Because up to that point, we'd been hanging out for a couple months. And, she was living in Bullhead. I was living out here. And, we got together several times through the months and, stayed the weekend at each other's places and traveled together. But the one time I just decided, you know what, this woman is worth putting in the effort and time, was when we went to Arizona Bike Week. I rode out there with some friends, met up with her, and we had such a freaking awesome time. It was an amazing time. And up to that point, I was kind of, like I said, guarded. But after that trip, that's when I knew. I was like, you know what? I think I found me a winner. And it really changed everything. Of course, we started, hanging out a lot more, meeting family and friends, and Christmas came around. Of course, I popped the question, and, it was such a natural progression. There was no work involved, really. It was just such a natural thing. It wasn't hard to fall in love with her at all. It was pretty easy. So yeah, that was the one moment I realized, you know what, this chick is kind of changing my whole world around. And so from then on, I really started, having a different way of thinking moving forward. And not just in our relationship, but with work and other friendships with people and where I wanted to go in the future and plans that I had and those things were all changing because of her. And I welcomed it. It was a pretty cool thing to kind of dive into, really. Everybody talks about what they miss when they get older. Let me tell you what I don't miss. I don't miss trying to impress people. I don't miss feeling like I have to be everywhere. I don't miss the constant drama of others or the outside noise, I don't miss having to prove myself or living for everyone else's expectations. Like I said, it came full circle. The older I get, the more I realize peace is not so boring. Peace is pretty fucking rad. But it's earned. It's not something that comes overnight. You really have to go through the trenches of life and be kicked down and really, have to climb out of, all the ups and downs of life, man. So it's really weird how things come full circle with stuff like that. For the first time in a long time, I don't spend much time looking back anymore. I am genuinely excited about what's ahead. Marrying Amanda, that is top of the list right now, right? We're getting married 10/10/26, and we're kind of in an exciting time right now. It's exciting knowing that we're going to have this special moment in October. Another thing I'm looking forward to, there's a lot aside from Amanda, right? Aside from marrying her, I'm excited about growing the podcast and meeting more listeners and, more road trips on Brandywine and with people that, are in my tight circle. More adventures, more laughs, more memories. And lastly, I'm looking forward to becoming a better man. That's important because here's something that no one tells you. Growing older isn't about losing your life, right? It's about finally understanding it, I think. And the older I get, the less I'm trying to build an impressive life, and the more I'm trying to build a meaningful one. So that's kind of where I'm at in life, Been thinking about this episode for a long time. I knew that inside I was going through some changes and a different path because I have someone by my side who is on that same path with me, right? It's I tell you what, it's definitely an awakening when you find that person who just gets you, right? It's like I said, it's not just about me anymore. It's about us and growing together. So, you know, it's not so much about caring about the outside world anymore. It's about us and our bubble, creating our own meaningful memories. And that's what I'm saying. I think this is meant to happen to everybody when you get older. You kind of just go through these life changes, all this stuff. You ever hear that saying, oh, they must be going through their midlife crisis? I don't look at that because I've lived more than half my life. So I don't look at it as like I'm going through a midlife crisis. It's like, I call that just experiencing life, dude. I mean, I don't know any other way to really call that. It's pretty amazing, but you certainly have to want to, be better. Like part of having a good life and growing older isn't about being a victim, right? You don't want to play victim because it's going to continue to live in misery. Who the fuck wants to do that, right? So it's not about having that victim mentality. You can't enjoy the world if you're going to constantly be a perpetual victim. So you always got to keep that in mind, in general, right? Not just relationships, politics, everything. Like, just build something meaningful, man. Build something that's worth something, and that's all I can say about that. So before you leave today, think about this. If everything you owned just disappeared tomorrow, what would make your life still worth living? Your answer probably tells you everything you need to know. And I could say this. If that were to happen to me, my family and my woman would still make it worthwhile being here. Because all that material shit, you can get all that shit back. But those real life moments and experiences with people, you can't get that shit back. And that's just my thoughts. So if you're a business owner who believes in, real, genuine conversations and wants to connect with an audience that values authenticity, I'd love to hear from you. In the Mind of JT podcast continues to grow because of listeners like you. And I'd love to partner with your business that believes in building genuine relationships with their customers. I'm extremely loyal when it comes to that. And it's just kind of part of my work ethic that I've gained over the years. And I want to leave this out in the ether, right? If today's episode spoke to you, please like it, subscribe to my podcast, share it with someone who's been part of your journey. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. You can find me at JT Space Triplet. or you can find me under JT Rocks You. I'm on my socials pretty regularly, and I do my best to answer every comment, every post. And, if you're one of those people who has a different point of view and wants to come on the show and debate me, let's do it. Let's talk about it. We're all adults here, right? I mean, let's get down and dirty. Let's throw it all on the table, because this podcast is not limited to conversations. We can legit talk about anything. So, like I said, if you're wanting to come on here and give me a different point of view, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out. So yeah, man, the older I get, the smaller my circle gets. But here's the funny thing, my life keeps getting bigger. Not because I have more, because I finally understood what matters. The life was never about collecting stuff. This life was never about collecting stuff. It was never about collecting people. It's about collecting moments with people who truly matter. And if you're lucky enough to find that in someone, you've already won, man. You've already fucking won. And that's all I gotta say about that. This is JT signing off. Ride safe, live free, and don't take shit from anybody. Peace.